As the sun slowly sank behind the stone hills of ancient Athens, the city began to change its rhythm. Shops closed their wooden doors. Streets grew quieter. Shadows stretched across marble columns, and oil lamps flickered to life one by one. This was not the end of the day. It was the beginning of something else. For the wealthy and educated men of Athens, night was the time of the symposium. A symposium was more than a party. It was a ritual, a carefully controlled gathering where wine, conversation, music, and habit flowed together in perfect balance, or collapsed into shame if discipline was lost. On this night, a young man named Nikandros walked nervously through the courtyard of a grand house near the agora. It was his first invitation. Nikandros was the son of a potter, respected, but not rich. His hands were strong from shaping clay, his mind curious from listening to philosophers in the marketplace. Being invited to a symposium meant something important. It meant he was being tested. Inside the house, servants moved silently, adjusting cushions and lighting lamps. The symposium room was long and wide, with painted walls showing gods drinking and heroes feasting. Low couches lined the room, each with a small table beside it. Nikandros removed his sandals and stepped inside. The smell of wine, olive oil, and incense filled the air. Men reclined on couches, leaning on one elbow, cups already in hand. Some spoke softly about politics. Others laughed over old stories. In the corner, a young slave girl held a flute, waiting for her signal. At the center of the room sat Lycaon, the host. He was a powerful merchant, silver-haired, broad-shouldered, and well known for his wisdom. Many respected him. Some feared him. Everyone watched him. Beside Lycaon sat the Symposiarch, the ruler of the night. His job was sacred. He decided how much water would be mixed with the wine, and how fast it would be consumed. In Greece, drinking unmixed wine was considered savage. Self-control was everything. Nikandros found an empty couch and reclined carefully, copying the posture of others. A servant approached and handed him a painted cup. It showed Dionysus, the god of wine, smiling mysteriously. Nikandros hesitated before drinking. He had been taught that the first sip revealed a man's character. He took a small sip. The wine was smooth, diluted, warm. Across the room, Lycaon lifted his cup and drank deeply. No one commented. No one objected. Minutes passed. Conversation rose and fell like gentle waves. A philosopher spoke about virtue. Another argued about fate. Someone told a clever joke, and the room laughed politely. And through it all, Lycaon kept drinking. Not quickly, not loudly, but constantly. Every pause in conversation, sip. Every new topic, sip. Every laugh, sip. Nikandros noted something strange. Lycaon did not seem to decide to drink. His hand moved on its own, as if guided by memory, not thought. Nikandros watched carefully. Each time a servant passed, Lycaon raised his cup without looking. His eyes stayed on the speaker. His mouth continued smiling, but the habit continued uninterrupted. At first, nothing changed. Lycaon spoke confidently. His voice carried authority. His arguments were sharp. But slowly, very slowly, something shifted. His words became longer, but less meaningful. His laughter lingered a little too long. His eyes lost their focus. No one mocked him. In fact, many pretended not to notice. In Greek society, it was considered rude to correct a host during a symposium. A man's self-control was his own responsibility. Nikandros felt uneasy. He remembered his father's words, "A pot ruined by small mistakes looks fine until it collapses in the kiln." As the night deepened, the flute player began to play. Soft music filled the room. Wine cups were refilled again and again. Lycaon's habit continued, sip after sip, cup after cup, not from joy, not from celebration, but from routine. Eventually, Lycaon tried to speak, and forgot his point halfway through. The room fell quiet. He laughed it off and drank again. Nikandros looked around and realized something powerful. This was not a story about wine. It was a story about habit. The habit of reaching for comfort. The habit of filling silence. The habit of doing what feels familiar, even when it slowly empties you. By the time midnight arrived, Lycon reclined silently. His cup rested in his hand, still half full, but his mind was far away. The symposium continued without him. Nikandros placed his cup down and did not lift it again. As he left the house later that night, cool air touching his face, one thought echoed in his mind. A man is not destroyed by excess in one night, but by small habits repeated without awareness. That night, Nikandros learned more than philosophy. He learned how a life slowly changes direction, one unconscious action at a time. Many years passed after that night. Athens changed slowly, the way stone wears down under wind and rain. New politicians rose and fell. Philosophers argued in the same streets. The gods were still worshipped, but people worshipped comfort even more. And Nikandros changed too. The nervous young man who once entered his first symposium with shaking hands was now older, calmer, and respected. His beard showed hints of grey. His hands were still strong, but his movements were deliberate. What set Nikandros apart was not wealth or fame. It was control. People noticed that he spoke less, but said more, that he listened longer, without impatience, that he never rushed, not his words, not his work, not his pleasures. Most of all, they noticed how he drank. When others lifted their cups automatically, Nikandros paused. When others refilled without thought, Nikandros waited. This habit, this quiet discipline, had shaped his life more than any single decision ever could. One evening, Nikandros hosted a symposium in his own home. It was not the largest house, not the most luxurious, but everything had its place. The couches were arranged evenly. The lamps were soft, not blinding. The wine was carefully mixed, never too strong. Guests arrived expecting just another night of drinking. They were wrong. Nikandros welcomed each guest calmly, making eye contact, speaking with warmth. When everyone reclined, he appointed a symposiarch, a man known for balance, not indulgence. The night began slowly. Conversation drifted toward philosophy, then daily life, then laughter. The flute player played softly, never overpowering the room. Nikandros lifted his cup, but did not drink. He listened first. Only when he felt present, fully present, did he take a sip. And then he set the cup down. The room felt different. Guests noticed that the conversation did not collapse into noise. Arguments stayed thoughtful. Laughter felt genuine, not forced. Time passed, but no one felt lost inside it. A young guest named Theron, barely older than Nikandros, had been at his first symposium, sat nearby. Theron drank quickly, nervously. Each silence made him uncomfortable. Each pause sent his hand back to the cup. Sip, sip, sip. Nikandros noticed. He did not interrupt. He did not shame. He waited. Later, when a servant approached to refill cups, Nikandros gently covered Theron's cup with his hand. Theron froze. Embarrassed, Nikandros spoke softly. "Tell me, do you drink because you desire the wine, or because your hand has learned the motion?" Theron hesitated. He looked at his cup. He had no answer. Nikandros removed his hand and smiled kindly. "In this room," he continued, "wine is not an escape. It is a mirror. It shows us whether we are awake or only repeating ourselves." Theron nodded slowly and set his cup down. The night continued. As hours passed, something remarkable happened. No one grew loud, no one lost themselves. No one collapsed into excess. Instead, the room felt sharper, clearer. Stories grew deeper. Arguments grew respectful. Silence became comfortable. Near the end of the night, one guest spoke quietly. "This feels different from other symposia." Nikandros answered, "Because most men let habit lead them. Few choose." When the guests finally left and the lamps burned low, Nikandros sat alone for a moment. He remembered Lycon. a man once admired, a man slowly undone. Not by vice, but by unexamined routine. Nikandros understood the truth clearly now. Great downfalls are rarely dramatic. They are built from tiny, daily decisions ignored. In ancient Greece, self-mastery was the highest virtue, not because pleasure was evil, but because uncontrolled habit turns pleasure into chains. Nikandros rinsed his cup and placed it upside down, empty, not because he lacked wine, but because he no longer needed it to fill silence, comfort boredom, or mask thought. As dawn approached, light crept through the courtyard. Nikandros smiled faintly. He had learned what many never do. Your life is not shaped by the moments you remember, but by the habits you repeat when no one is watching. Final moral, in ancient Greek parties, the greatest danger was not wine, it was forgetting to choose. Habits decide your future quietly. Awareness decides whether that future is yours.